Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We welcome you, whatever time and wherever in the world you are listening. We are pleased you have found us. You are now listening to Inside the Bunghole, a podcast taking you on a journey through wine. Together, we will learn more about this wonderful elixir of life. So raise your glass to welcome your hosts and partners in wine, Pam and James. You are now inside the bunghole.
Well, good day, everybody. We are here inside the bunghole, and today we're on a field trip. We're in Las Vegas, and we're talking to Jon Simmons, the somm over at Hugo's Cellar, which is in the Four Queens down on Freemont Street. If you've never been, the food's great, the atmosphere is great, and Jon's been there since, I think, the beginning of time.
Yes, since Adam was a cowboy.
So tell me a little bit about your history. Oh, I'm here also with James.
Hello.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the history of how long you've been in Vegas and Hugo Cellar. And
Well, I was living in Florida. I came out here for 6 months. I was running the pools at the Circus and the old Holiday Inn, which is now Harrah's. And we were working for a guy who had the Fontainebleau Hilton concession. He said, would you like to go to Vegas for 6 months? I've got an apartment. You're not going to make much money, but it's Vegas. And we said, there were two of us. We're like, oh, this is great. Yeah, why not? Something new. We'd driven through it before. We drove across the US and back when we first came here. We drove from Florida to San Francisco and all the way back. It's great. We stopped in Las Vegas, and I loved this. As soon as I drove in here, I'm like, oh, I love the climate, the mountains. It's beautiful.
This is like the 80s?
The first time I lived here was the summer of 81.
81.
Came out around the pool. So I thought, in the back of my mind, Vegas, interesting. So I got into the restaurant business because I wanted to do things I'd never done in England. I was a CPA for a while, which was totally boring. It drove me to drink, actually. I decided to come back to Vegas because there was a strike in 1984. The culinary union just completely went on strike. This town was desperate for good help. And I was already working in a nice gourmet room. And I was lucky. I was taken under the wing by this old Cuban captain who just knew everything. Everything was tableside at this private club I worked at. And he taught me how to do everything from Caesar salad to baked Alaska to strawberry zabayon. We even did fettuccine alfredo from scratch tableside.
oh my God.
I mean, for appetizer and the appetizer took forever. It was ridiculous. There was so much, but he taught me everything. He took me under his wing, so I was very lucky. And I came out here and started working at the Palace Court, which was the restaurant in town at Caesar's Palace at the time, because there was nobody to work. It lasted 10 weeks, the strike. It was pretty violent. Somebody got killed during it. The car next to me got blown up. I came out. I had a 73 Coupe de Ville. I didn't care. There was glass all over it because the car next to it got blown up. Because this was serious. The union was serious.
Was this like post-mob, but still kind of...
Well, the year I arrived, late 83, I think 1984 was the last time there was any actual gunning down. The guy from the Stardust who had that show, they tried to kill him in his Cadillac, failed. And after that, there was no real overt gunning downs or anything. In a few years, everything became legitimate. The same people all own the places now, but they make so much money legally. You didn't need that. But I was fascinated with the mob. I grew up reading all the books and... the Mob Museum is... Have you been to the Mob Museum? It's fascinating.
No.
But that's when Vegas was Vegas.
Yes.
I mean, that's when Vegas, you had to be dressed up.
Yes, everyone
You
was
didn't
in
look like a schlep.
No, tuxedos and the sequin mines in Tennessee were very busy, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I wish the mob would come back, quite frankly.
Well, those guys a few of them, a regular customer of mine before he was taken care of was Tony the Ant Spilaccio, who was the assassin for the Las Vegas mob. He was a regular in Hugo's. And, I thought I was in The Godfather. I mean, I'd met Mr. Sinatra and Sammy Davis and Dean Martin came in because his last gig was the Golden Nugget before he retired, Frank Sinatra.
Wow.
Steve Wynn owned it then. That's how he started. Steve Wynn had this hotel and then he went to the Strip, Bellagio, Mirage,
He's
Treasure
done
Island.
pretty well for himself.
Yes, very well. They used to come over to Hugo's a couple of times because we had a very famous showroom in the Four Queens called the French Quarter, and all the top jazz musicians played there over the years. Papa John Creech, Pete Fountain, then later on Davy Jones, the Monkees,
Yes.
Peter Noon, Herman
Yes.
Hermits, B.J. Thomas, also Della Reese, all these people. And Frank Jr. would play there. And Frank was a very good orchestra conductor. He shouldn't have really sang, but he tried to sing. Right. But Frank would come over and see his son, who was kidnapped, incidentally, in the 1960s, and Frank almost didn't pay the ransom. He was hesitant, $100,000.
Right.
And Frank Jr. was different. He was a teetotaler, and he had a crush on our female bartender at the time. And he'd sit at the bar and order a virgin pina colada and just eat it with a teaspoon like this, staring at her all night. Go out with me, Beverly. But she never would. So I thought I was in The Godfather in those days. I mean, the mob guys like, how you doing? And there was cigar smoking in the restaurant in those days. They're blowing cigar smoking. How you doing? I thought I would died and gone to heaven. It was just great. It was surreal times, really.
And you started at Hugo's
as a server, and then the sommelier at the time, there was nobody to give him a day off, and he found out I knew a bit about wine because my grandfather had wine stores in England. So
that's what I read in an article. Your grandfather had
he had several wine stores, and in the summer holidays I'd work in the warehouse, and my parents were big wine drinkers. So when you were 11 or 12 in the 60s in England, I was an only child. My parents started giving me this, like 2 inches of wine.
Oh, absolutely.
Knock him out. Children should be seen and not heard. Let's get into bed so we can have a good time. Well, after a while, it didn't work. By the time I was 12, I'm getting half a glass of wine every night.
So you must have learned little bits of French as a kid, just from wine labels or your
French. I did French. I spoke fluent.
Okay.
I actually used to speak fluent French, but and we had French au pair girls. So my parents made me speak French all the time with them. So 40 years in Las Vegas doesn't help. I used to speak 3 languages quite fluently, and now just English. Hebrew and Russian. Russian was the useful one. It was my co-mate.
It might be again soon, buddy.
Yeah, right. So I forgot what I was up to.
Well, you were talking about
Hugo's. You started as a server.
Oh yeah, started as a server.
Some guy
and then he said, you know a bit about wine. I didn't know anything about American wine, but in those days there were probably 30 or 40 wineries. There was nothing to know really. I mean, so he said, I need 2 days off a week. Can you do this 2 days a week? Well, the restaurant had only been open a few years. The wine list had maybe 30 selections. It wasn't very big. Yes, I'd love to. This sounds interesting. There was no business in those days, I remember. But I thought, because it was always kind of a hobby wine. Never occurred to me I'd do it for a living. Anyway, within a year, he'd moved on to the Biltmore. He'd been offered the wine director of the Biltmore in LA. So within a year, I was the sommelier. I took over as the sommelier there. Now we have 300 wines on the list, 100 wines off the list. I think that's big enough. Some of the places in town have thousands of wines, or Burns Steakhouse, where you
in Tampa,
600,000 bottles in the cellar. It's insane.
Have you ever been down that
cellar?
cellar?
I turned green with envy.
Amazing.
It's crazy.
But I mean, how often do those wines go bad?
I don't know, because some of them are very, very old. But if they're kept properly, Bordeaux's and Burgundies can last 70, 80 years, no problem. Ports last forever. It's just insane. The other big one is it Grey Cliff in Bahamas? They have 500,000 bottles in that cellar. I have about 5,000 bottles at Hugo's in the cellar.
That's huge.
Oh, it's insane.
Is there a cellar there?
Yeah.
I know you're in the cellar basically when you go downstairs.
When you come in when you check in, there's the actual wine cellar's right there, which holds about 1,000 bottles. Downstairs we have what we call the liquor room, which I don't think it's got any bigger since I had 30 wines. Now there's 400 plus all the liquor for the hotel. So I know where everything is. We've got 4 different wines in bins, but they're all tagged. Yes, it's 2 floors below the Hugo's, not for public consumption.
I know technology's changed how you used to label and keep inventory. How do you do it now? Like, how'd you do it back in the day, and then?
Apart from the computer, I have actual physical tags with the numbers.
So what do you think is the most important part about being a som who's at a restaurant? Is it the knowledge? Is it the personality?
There's a difference between, I'm sure there's a lot of sommeliers, I know plenty of wine knowledge, but wine knowledge by itself to me is useless. There's a difference between knowing everything about wine and being a good sommelier. It's how you present yourself to the people. Don't try and ram $300 bottles down people's throat. Give them what they want, not what you want to give them. Find out what they want. But it's having fun. I have everyone laughing within a minute when I go to the table. That wine, people take it way too seriously.
Right.
It's not a serious thing. It's a fun thing. People drink to have fun together.
Exactly.
And I've always found over the years, drinking a killer bottle of wine by yourself is no fun at all if you haven't got someone to share the experience with.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
then remember it.
Wine is for sharing.
So if you go online, some of the reviews about me, like, John's hysterical, he should be a stand-up comedian, blah, blah, blah. When you go in asking for a joke, because I tell a lot of jokes, but people come in I've never even met, tell me a joke. I'm like, well, buy me a drink first or something.
Kiss me,
yeah,
something.
So the most amazing for me is all the people I've met. I mean, I've met probably 2 million people since 38 years in October I've been there. I have third generation wine drinkers from the same family. I first met them in a high chair and I was like, what do you have in nice cabinets? I've watched them grow. Families come back forever when they find Hugo's.
Yes.
18th, 21st, graduations, weddings,
That's
anniversaries.
amazing.
Oh,
Like 3 generations.
3 generations, yes. And every night, several people will walk in and go, "Oh my God, you're still here!" It's in love. Yeah,
That old man.
yeah. The
There
old
you
man
go.
just used to say his last job was the sommelier at the Last Supper. I thought it was a bit harsh, but it's probably true.
They're gonna have your ashes up there.
Yeah, I was like,
So
He's
someone,
still here.
So someone asking you, "Hey, I'm having the fillet with that. What should I pair it with?"
right. And I go, "What do you like?" First of all, for instance, last night a guy, he just wanted a glass of wine with dinner, and he was having a steak. He goes, "I don't like red wine. Is it okay if I have a Chardonnay?" I said,
Yeah.
"Well, of course. Why would you, if you don't like red wine, why would you drink it?" Because they say you're supposed to drink red with meat and white with fish. I said, for 30 years I've been telling people, that is a load of nonsense. Drink what you like, eat what you like. 99% of the time you have a great bottle of wine and some great food. How can you go wrong? Yes, there are some pairings that may go better with other things and some pairings that clash, but by and large, no. There's a lot of BS going on in the wine world, so I think, it should be fun. We drink red wine almost exclusively. In the summer, the occasional white Burgundy. Can't do the American Chards too much anymore. There are a few exceptions, obviously, but there's too much oak in them for me. So.
Yeah, I'm not a
You
big
can get
oak
splinters from some of these
Yes.
things,
Yeah.
And Australian Chardonnays, forget about it. Oh my God.
Are they really oaky?
Oh God, too much.
Yeah,
But
I like
Australian
it
wines are
crisp.
very intense. If you get the Shirazes, very fruit forward. I mean, I love them. And I used to be a big fruit bomb guy. Zins from California, big cabs. I still love them. But we drink mainly European wines now because the earth, the dirt. When you stick your nose in a good Bordeaux, you can.
Yeah,
You can
smell
it. Yeah, the
history.
earth, and yeah.
So being from the UK originally, you probably had more of French wines, things like
yes,
no California's ever.
No. The first wine that
California
ever showed up
wines
in
were-
England was probably about the time I left. Mondavi was the first winery from California to start marketing in Europe. The first decent wine.
Yeah.
You had the crappy wines,
Right.
whatever. We had the
Inglenook.
equivalent. Well, yeah. And now look at Inglenook.
Yeah.
Coppola bought it, and Francis Ford Coppola.
See, well, now here it's backwards. It's like when you go to like a wine shop, everyone runs to California because they don't know how to read really a French label.
The labels.
It's intimidating in a
Yes.
weird way. You don't know if it's the region, it's the terroir,
And it's like,
this,
I
it's the
like
grape.
a Pinot Noir. And it's like,
Oh, yeah.
well, that's a Burgundy.
Yeah.
It's like,
Just-
skip it. I'm going to go to this aisle.
Right,
Never mind.
because all American wines are named after the grape. All good European wines, unless it's a cheapo, it'll say Merlot or Chardonnay. Like B&G was the first bulk producer from France. It would say the name of the grape, and I always tell people if it says the name of the grape, it's El Cheapo, which is fine if you want to pay for it. Otherwise, they're all named after the place. Like Gevrey, Chambertin, Burgundy, it's a town, or Pouilly-Fussé, Poligny, Montrachet. They're all places. So it's very hard for people who are not familiar with that to get their head. Well, what kind of grape is white Burgundy? Is one of my favorite oxymorons. I mean,
And white Burgundy is
it's
a Chardonnay.
They're all Chardonnays,
Yeah.
yeah, but they're nothing like American Chardonnays. They're crisp, dry, mostly unoaked. There is a bit of oak, but there are American Chardonnays that are wonderful. Like Sonoma-Cutrer is all stainless steel. And there's a lot of good ones around. In the 80s, probably late 80s, early 90s, I was persuaded to enter the National Sommelier competition. Not, for me, a pleasant experience. These guys were so cutthroat and so serious. I mean, Jesus. I mean, if you stood one step too close to the table, they would, oh no, you've stood...
Oh, is this the service part
Yeah,
of it?
the service.
Yeah, bullshit.
So it was in LA at, I can't think it was at Biltmore or somewhere. And I'm a pretty irreverent guy, as you can probably already tell. So as the judges, and I was tasting the wine, so I went, how about them Dodgers? Just as a laugh. And they just looked at me. Like, come on, you're supposed to be fun here. So that was
Lighten
not...
up.
I did pass the blind tasting part, but then you have to do the essay about none of my customers care about microclimate, terroir, rootstock. It's mind-numbingly boring stuff to most people, unless you're into agriculture. I'm really not. So I'm interested in the finished product, like most of my customers. How much is it? Of course, I never give people a hard sell. In fact, I'm more likely to say, no, don't have that. It's rubbish. Have this, it's half the price.
There
were a couple of wines which I will not mention because I don't want to offend anyone that are just so overpriced. And I'm like, a CEO years ago came in with all his minions, and the minions used to come to Hugo's, and he said, "Well, we love this place. We're bringing our boss, but I'm warning you, he's very difficult. He's very knowledgeable about wine." I'm like, okay, I love the challenge. So he walked in and he said, "Yes, we'll have 2 bottles of blah blah. What do you think of it?" And I said, "It's crap." And you could see the gasp of these 10 other guys. And he looked at me and he burst out laughing. He said, "So what you got?" I said, "I got 2 bottles. It was $400 a bottle, this one." I said, "I got 2 bottles for the same price." And I brought him out and he's like, "Oh my God, this is so much better." And he's come back for life ever since. He goes, "No one's ever talked to me like that before." I said, "What do I care? I don't work for you." Exactly. He just laughed his ass off.
What do you
Same thing with the owner of this place, Tillman Fertitta. He came in one day, and when he first bought the hotel, he came to Hugo's, and he said, "I want to know why everyone in the Nugget is eating at Hugo's." And I said, "Well, pretty much because you have crap restaurants." And he just burst out laughing. So then he started putting all the good restaurants in here, because our number one customer base is the Nugget.
I bet.
This is the nicest, well, until Circa came along maybe. This is the nicest hotel downtown, it always was. So everyone stayed here and just walks across the street to Hugo's and staggers home afterwards.
What do you suppose wine got a snobby
because
vibe to it? And when it's friendly, but why did it get offensive?
I think sommeliers had a lot to do with that in the 80s and 90s. Some of the guys on the strip here were just so pretentious. And, it's intimidating enough when you walk into a restaurant, you really don't know much about wine. And then suddenly you get this tome of wine list, 500 wines. And people are like, well, I don't know what.
And most of them are shopping down the right side of the menu to see. It's like, what's in my price point?
Well, in my wine list always goes high price to low price, so people, not random, because a lot of places you got to look through the whole wine list. It'll be $1,000, $30, $800. No, just because people want to know. Oh, I'll stay in this range. There's no point making people look at all the wines. Oh, I wish I could afford that. They look at the top, but give them a price range. And it's amazing. Corporate credit cards are wonderful for the wine business.
Oh, yes.
So it's always great. But when a lot of people come in with the families, it's like, oh, let's go down here because we're paying. But that doesn't matter. I always ask people what kind of price range you want to stay in. I never would give you a hard sell. The last thing I'd ever want somebody to feel like is they got clipped when they left the restaurant. So I always mention it. My line is, look, if you don't like it, I'm drinking it. So if you want to experiment, I always tell them that. If you want to try something new, this is the place, because, we've never tried Bordeaux, but we don't know.
Right. And
most restaurants, if you go and order a $100 bottle, which is a lot of money, and you want to send it back because you didn't like it, or even if it's corked, if there's no sommelier, suddenly there's a Spanish Inquisition at the table. Managers that come over. If the food's no good, no problem, it goes back. But if a bottle of wine is in question, a lot of restaurants make such a just take it away, bring another one. What's the big hassle?
And everybody in the back will drink it.
Yeah,
so well, even if it's corked,
we get a lot of bad wine in the summer. That's the problem with Las Vegas. I get several bottles a week will be corked because it sits on a loading bay for 10, 15 minutes, 100, 110 degrees. It's gone
in 10 or 15 minutes.
That's all it can take. Sometimes you can see the bulging of the foil and the cork.
Right. Yep.
And so I get quite a few, and I have the task of I taste every single bottle for 38 years, whether it's Beringer White Zinfandel or Chateau Lafite Rothschild. I treat everyone the same, and a lot of reviews over the years. We used to come in and we didn't know anything about wine, and he treated us the same with a $20 bottle. Now those people now are ordering $200-300 bottles because they were broke and they were young.
Yeah,
I've been there so long. People come from nothing to multimillionaires. And they said, because of you, we had our first bottle of wine. Now I've got a 500 bottle walk-in cellar at home because of you. And the wives are like, thanks, John. But it's so much fun. Every night I know half the room probably.
And if I came in, which I might, and say, hey, listen, I want my price range is, $70.
Yeah.
But I want something that's going to drink like a $400 bottle.
Right.
And
rock my world.
But yes, but there are, there are lots of sleepers. I have a lot of sleepers. I feel double retail is a fair market for wine. And everyone's got the app now where you can zap the back of the
Absolutely.
bottle. Oh, it's $20 at Total Wine, but you're charging $180. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So double retail is fine. That's always been fine to me. And the higher more expensive the bottle, the less my markup. Because how much money do you need to make on a bottle of wine?
Yeah.
I can send 10 bottles at $195 instead of 2 bottles at $295, which other places will mark up to. You know, it's good business, and people come back that way. I've been clipped a couple of times. I remember going to a restaurant on the Strip, and I said, "Yeah, bring me a reasonable bottle of wine. This is what I want." I kind of describe. I never say. A lot of people know me now because I've been around, but I never ever say, "Oh, I'm a sommelier." I just see what happens. And the check came, and it was a $310 bottle of wine. And this is 15 years ago. So I called the waiter over and said, "So when you go out for dinner and you ask for a reasonable bottle of wine, is $310 reasonable to you?" He went, "No." So I said, "Well, why did you give me that?" So he didn't know what to say. I'll never go back to that place. That's, you got me. Okay, you got me once.
Yeah.
You're not
Shame,
getting me twice.
yeah, once
Shame
shame
on-
on me.
shame,
Second
yeah.
time.
Last night we were at Great Som there. We were at
The Thai restaurant that
Lotus Sim.
Oh,
Siam.
Lotus
Lotus
of
of
Siam.
Siam.
Fabulous.
And
Like,
that
the
gentleman,
best Thai.
he came over and I said, "Would you recommend?" He goes, "When I'm off duty and not doing my thing, that there's more expensive, but this is bang for your
Do you
buck."
remember
it
what
was
it
a
was?
good Riesling.
It was.
They have the #1 Riesling list in the Western United States.
It
'cause
was
goes-
wonderful.
Yes.
He was,
And
he
she
was honest.
is-
He was great.
Yeah, he was
I know it is.
Yeah.
I eat there quite a lot. It's a fantastic place.
fantastic.
Because our mouth was on fire, then we had that. It was like, God, this is perfect.
Do you remember what you had for dinner?
We had the
Some yum gang
we had kamkagai soup and we had
Duck.
The duck is the,
The
best.
duck.
I always have the duck.
Duck,
They're
the
Thai
crispy duck and the fatty
and
duck.
the prawns they have, they open them up and butterfly them with 5-6 different sauces. That's next time you go, try those.
Prawns.
The appetizer.
Yep.
Oh, fantastic.
Great.
Was it packed? It's always packed.
We got
Line
there
out the door
We
before
got
they
there.
opened.
Yeah, I think it opened at 5:30. We got there at
There was a
5:25,
line.
and there was a line out the door.
What do you recall, if all, your favorite wine you ever had drank in your life?
Oh yes, there's one. By
And then we'll
far.
go to a commercial break.
Do you want to wait till let's leave everybody hanging on his favorite?
Not
one?
only that, I want to find out what that was.
I'm sure he'll tell us.
And I want to talk about back in Vegas with Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis, who we
Okay,
served.
everybody, stay tuned. We'll be back in a flash.
If you want to know more about Inside the Bunghole, join us on all our social media platforms. You can get a revisit and view all the latest posts, giveaways, and information on this podcast. Simply search Inside the Bunghole on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. Or you can email us at insidethebunghole@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and visit our website at insidethebunghole.buzzsprout.com, where you can always find our latest podcast and past episodes. Cheers!
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for staying with us. And we're about to find out what John's favorite wine is.
Ever?
Ever.
Yes,
Ever in your
there's
life.
one by far and away the best wine I've ever put in my mouth. I'll never taste it again because it's about $25,000 a bottle now. But it's a 1945 Mouton Rothschild, which Mouton is my favorite all-time wine. And 1945 was the Liberation vintage, and it had it right on the label. It was the year they got the wineries back from the Nazis, and they said it was the first time the sun shone on Bordeaux in 7 years. And it turned out to be one of the great vintages of the century, of the 20th century, fittingly, because it was such a great time.
How'd you get your hands on it?
Well, I used to be a member of the Chaîne de Rotisseurs until it got way too snooty and just pretentious people trying to figure out they knew wine. We went to this tasting, $500 each, probably 25 years ago. And it was all vertical and Mouton. It was all the great vintages, 45, 59, 61, and 82. Probably the great vintages of the 20th century. And the couple next to me, this is Vegas though for you. So is this red wine we're going to drink tonight? They just wanted to say they drank this wine or anything. So we got this, about an inch worth. Oh my God, I'm already a Mouton freak. Wow. I have one bottle left for my 70th birthday. I'll never have it again. I've had several. I collected them over years, but now they're, $1,000 for the new vintage. You can't drink them for 20 years. So It's just the most.
I might be dead by that comes
Yeah,
out.
well, I probably will be.
What is it?
So-
The grape or is it the chemistry?
It's just, yeah,
What-
Mouton, all the first grow. I mean, you wouldn't turn down Lafitte, Latour, Haut-Briand, and Margaux are the 5 first grows. I mean, none of them, all of them are spectacular ones. Mouton happens to be my personal favorite. I just the little earthier, a little more flavor. I don't know. That was just me.
And is it just like in your mouth feel? Is
Yes.
it or just
Everything.
The whole,
The nose,
the finish just went on forever, and I just lingered, and I just wanted more. I mean, but that was all I got.
like 25,000 a bottle?
Yeah, now it is. It wasn't then, but
How come Yellowtail can't make that?
well, the reserve's very nice. Don't the Shiraz, the reserve Yellowtail, which is about 20, but it's decent.
Right.
It's better than some of the other inexpensive stuff around.
But just a spectacular. So you had
it was
that?
just that much.
Wow.
It's
It's totally stands out. It would be
It
like
does.
Jimi Hendrix playing in front of you.
Yeah.
It's just different, whole
Yes.
other level.
Yes.
Insane.
Are you a Jimi Hendrix fan?
I love Jimi Hendrix.
My uncle in northern England, well, he's my stepmom's brother, but she's been my stepmom for 40 years. She's like my other mother. Her brother hired Jimi Hendrix for his bar in Newcastle before he was famous.
Wow.
I mean, a year later, he became this huge star.
Right,
he was
right.
playing in this crappy little club because he saw him and he went, "This guy's incredible."
Right, right.
So that's the Jimi Hendrix connection I have.
Yeah.
And you were mentioning a good Frank Sinatra. You had a good
Yes.
Frank story.
So I was working at this private club in Florida, as I mentioned, and I was 24 years old. I was a waiter at night, and we heard that it was on the Intracoastal. It was a cool place. It had 10 themed bedrooms that were only for high rollers, and a very good gourmet room. And that's where I was working. It was lunch and dinner, and the maitre d' was a real dick. And Sinatra was coming in, always in the restaurant business, it doesn't matter who's coming in, everyone should get the same service, just so I was saying $20 bottle of Beringer or $200 or $500 bottle, you give them the same service. You should. So the Sinatra party walks in and he's like, we had a 16-year-old Cuban busboy that was so nervous to start with. So they sit down, there's 5 of them, and the busboy walks up to the table and the maitre d's behind him like, you better not screw up. And he goes to pour the water, and his hand's shaking so much that he misses it goes in the glass, but then he goes all over the table. And the maitre d' just rips this kid. You idiot. Blah, blah, blah. And Frank Sinatra goes, excuse me, maitre d', come here, the finger, come here. And I knew the maitre d' thought he was going to say, get this idiot out of the way, bring me somebody good. He said, if you ever talk to an employee like that in front of me again, you'll be looking for a job tomorrow. And he says, the busboy, come here. He goes, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. And he reaches into his pocket and just gives him this wad of money, whatever he has in the pocket. This is 1979 in Florida. We go in the back, it's $1,000. The kid goes, I quit. And he walked right out the back door. I don't blame him. But Frank was always big about the little guy. I was telling you about the Sammy Davis story. He wouldn't, he had to stay at the Moulin Rouge until Frank put his foot down and said, unless Sammy's, 1970, 52 years ago.
Amazing.
He said, unless Sammy stays here, the Rat Pack is leaving here forever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just insane. When Sammy went swimming, apparently, I think it was 68, 69, after a show in the summer at the Sands pool. When the guests found out about it, they made him drain the pool and refill it because the black men had gone. I mean, he was the greatest guy. The others were cool to meet the Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra, but Sammy, he was just always on.
Right.
And the things they used to say to him back then, they were just done with love, but it would not go down today. I mean, it was just some stuff, but he was just always on. I guess he had to be because he was. Just,
We got to spend time with Barbara Sinatra, and she was saying Frank on his days off would read a local newspaper, which is the Desert Sun in Palm Springs, and he'd find like a family trailer park caught on fire and burned down and da-da-da. He would get some cash, put it in the paper, send one of his guys over there, knock on the door.
Yeah.
They had no clue
Who
it
gave
was,
it?
Where it came from. He was very private about it.
Right.
And or a little kid that hit on a bicycle, had paid for the funeral service.
Yeah.
He did this constantly. But so what did Frank ever make it to Hugo Cellar?
Yes, he came in, I think twice, right just after I'd taken over, 85 I think, yeah. And he wanted Chateau Petrus. Well, I'd inherited this little cellar, and for some reason we had a bottle of 1970, one bottle of 74 in there, so I brought it out, and he's like, 74, terrible vintage, I only drink 75. But he's right, because I didn't know at the time, I wasn't familiar with those sort of wines, those really high-end wines. 74 was an absolute garbage year in Bordeaux, and 75 was great. So there were 6 or 7 restaurants, maybe good restaurants in the whole town in those days. I got on the phone and said, somebody had, I can't remember which restaurant, they jumped in the car and brought a 75 Petrus down.
So
it was
Frank kind of knew his wines?
Apparently he did, yes.
Yeah.
Well, it was the world's most expensive wine back then,
And
pretty
he knew
much.
that year
Oh.
was good, this year was,
Yeah.
okay.
And it turned out he was dead right, because I was thinking, you know, pretentious guy, but
Exactly.
it turned out he
74.
was dead right, because 74 was one of the worst Bordeaux years in recent memory. It was just one, like my birth year, 1956. I cannot even find a bottle of 56 Bordeaux. I just want one to have. It rained the whole summer. It was so bad they hardly made any wine, so
Right.
I can't even find a birth year wine, so I wouldn't drink it. But
Where does one look for wine if you're in that, you know, if you know your stuff? Where do you even broker out or find it?
yeah, there's brokers online you can find, and you punch in, you can find anything anyway if you're willing to pay for it. The problem with buying wine like that is you've got to prove that it's been kept properly. People say, oh, I've got a collection of wine at home and I'm going to sell it. Well, if you can't prove the provenance and it's been cellared properly, and it's all, because if people are paying thousands a bottle for a wine, and it's not right,
You're right.
so it's a very difficult thing to do. Do you keep wine at home? Do you have a little cellar?
I have a wine closet, and I know it's too warm for. I mean,
But I could
Well,
physically
it's
look.
it's an inside wall. There's no outside wall, because that's what I have in home. I
Inside.
converted a closet, and there's no outside walls.
I have one out. It's on the outside wall.
And I could physically look at it, at least touch it, maybe hold it to a
Right.
light and
Well,
see.
every Christmas I go through. I have a few hundred bottles. COVID destroyed our wine cellar. The whole city was closed for 3 months. There was nothing to do. We were killing 2 bottles a day at least.
I was
So-
going to say, yeah, COVID didn't kill it. Your liver did.
But it was a weird thing. I'd never had 3 months off in my life, and there was nowhere to go, no restaurant.
Nothing. You could do
Grubhub and
nothing.
DoorDash became, it still are now. I mean,
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But every Christmas I used to go through, and if you look in the top of the bottle, and if it's down to here, it means drink it, because it's ullage, it's called, when it
Okay.
starts evaporating. The cork is faulty. So if anything starts going down below, towards the shoulder, that's how you know.
That's when
drink
it's
it.
time to drink.
Because I've got some older stuff in there. So.
Do you at your restaurant get into that where you're heating, putting a lamp underneath
No.
or a fire
No,
flame?
it's not necessary anymore, because
What
that
is
was
that?
before. That was the candle. Yeah, that was decanting. And so when you were decanting, the only way you could see how the sediment, when it was starting to go, is you put the candle underneath it. You took the foil off, and you
Those
could see in
little
the
chunky
neck.
bits.
Yeah,
You know?
sediment. Now you've got the filter. I've got the filter with the decanter and the filter, which catches everything. So that was more for show than anything. I mean, it was part of the pomp and circumstance, which I try to minimize a lot. The last thing I want to do is intimidate people. That's why within 30 seconds or 10 seconds of going to the table, I get them laughing.
Right.
Because here we go, we were talking about it before, so the last thing you need is some snooty sommelier who comes up to the table, you're already intimidated. Yeah, have you
Right.
decided on some wine? Like,
Yeah.
so, what are you eating? What are you looking for?
Right.
Well, we don't. A lot of people are the first to say, we don't know much about wine.
That's true.
You're the expert. You tell us. I said, no. There's no such thing, in my opinion, as an expert in wine. Everyone has it. It's such a subjective thing.
Or
Everybody likes it different.
Or feel bad ordering something that's a little on the lowest price out of the whole menu.
Yes.
And have the gentleman just walk away, not say anything. Not like, you know what? Good eye. Good bang for your buck.
Oh, it was
to make you
fantastic.
feel good. You know what I
This
mean?
is-
It's like,
Yeah.
Every
Just
now and
make you
again,
feel
somebody
good.
will order a sleeper. Normally, I have to recommend it. And I'll go, yeah, that's one of the great deals on the list. Yeah, but you can tell the people that know the wine. A lot of people pretend to,
pretend to.
and I don't know why. So I go along with it. I never want to make them
Right.
feel bad. But the other night, a couple came in. Could tell it was the first date, probably mid-20s. And he swirls the wine and he goes, "Look at the arms on this wine, honey."
The arms.
I didn't want to say anything because it's the first day, He knew it was a body part. That's good enough. The other one they get is they swirl the wine. This is a popular one. And they go, "Lovely boudoir this wine has." Yeah. And I go, "I think that comes later." It goes right over the head. It's like, yeah, because they get the wine terminology. Talking of that, if you read the Wine Spectator these days, the descriptors on some of these wines, I'm like, am I tasting the same wine they are? They come up with these most obscure tasting notes, and it's just, I don't know, it's not relevant to life. I was reading one yesterday. And I've been behind the bar because we share the wine and the bar are shared for 38 years in Hugo's. And the bartender, Dean, who's been there 25 years, has brought in hundreds of different obscure drinks and cocktails. This wine descriptor it reminds me of a black walnut liqueur. Have you ever heard of a black walnut liqueur? You have? No. I mean, who has? Lingonberry is another big one. I know of Lingonberry. I've never tasted one. I asked my cat, have you ever Lingonberry? Hint of forest floor is another good one.
Right.
Which, you're on all fours sniffing the forest. I know. I get what they're getting at, but it's overkill. And they are an advocate for the wine industry now. They used to be for the consumer. The lowest score I've seen in 10 years in the Wine Spectator is 82. They never slam a wine anymore. It used to be, 59, not very good. It's a 50 to 100 point scale, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, is it?
Yes. So 90% of their wines are 90 or above now. And it's just, you can't, we blind taste, if we scored a few over 90 was a lot. So it's become for the industry, because they don't want to criticize wine. And I know how much work and time and effort it makes winemaking is. They do it for the love of it, most people. There's certainly not a lot of money in it for the people who are making wine. And owning a winery is like so many multinationals own them now, because how do you take 20 million and turn it into 2 million, buy a winery, still. So they do it for the love of it. And I am so in awe of the winemakers. Right. And the technology is so much better now. There's so much less crap wine around. Right. What used to be a terrible wine, it's okay now, it's palatable. Right. There's a lot less awful wine around. So
that's good to know.
Yeah.
We should break, but when we come back, I want to ask him, how does he or how should someone approach a bottle of wine, from looking at it, pouring it, smelling it, just basic 101 for anyone that's listening,
That's down.
Like, what are the simple rules? I know he doesn't have rules.
Well, and also they're not snooty. But we'll come back and talk about approaching a bottle of wine, and then we'll wrap it up and let you have a wonderful day off.
Yeah, go and meet my lovely better half.
There you go. So
we have different schedules, so it's difficult sometimes.
Well, we won't keep you too much.
No, it's fine. I'm having a good time with you guys.
Very good. Okay, we'll be back in just a minute.
In a jiffy.
If you want to know more about Inside the Bunghole, join us on all our social media platforms. You can get a revisit and view all the latest posts, giveaways, and information on this podcast. Simply search Inside the Bunghole on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. Or you can email us at insidethebunghole@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and visit our website at insidethebunghole.buzzsprout.com, where you can always find our latest podcast and past episodes. Cheers!
That really was a jiffy.
I just took a nap. I feel so much better.
Yes.
Well,
so your question was wine, how to...
Yeah, like what if you were to sit down with a newbie and just kind of walk them through, here's a bottle of wine, and let's just say a red, for example.
You mean not in a store? Because of this device now, you can go and look at
not in a store. Really enjoying you with your friend, and you're sitting there and you have a bottle of wine, and you're just going to look at the color and the smell and just kind of go enjoy it.
Yes.
How would you want someone to enjoy a bottle of wine?
Well, open it.
How should we enjoy it?
Open it, and the right glassware does a big glass. I always say, bring
these plastic glasses that we're drinking.
If you got to do it, yes, that's fine.
But
when I put the proper glass down, I go, because sometimes this is my line, because sometimes size does matter.
Yes.
And the women burst out. It always matters. I said, I know that. So, but it does. So I encourage you, pour it, swill it, because part of the fun of it is just the bouquet. I mean, just the smell and how it changes when it's in the glass. 5 or 10 minutes in a nice glass, it certainly tastes a lot mellower. I'm not a fan of decanting unless I have to. We get a lot of pretentious people in that come in and order a $50 bottle of wine, and can you decant it? Yes, of course I will, but it's just, to impress their friends.
What's the rule on that, you think?
Well, for me, it's for older wines, and particularly Bordeaux, do have sediment, so they do need decanting. Like if you've got an old port, the bottom third of the bottle is sludge. I mean, it literally is sludge. I mean, so you have to decant those sort of wines.
And sludge is fine.
It is. You don't want
Well,
it's harmless, but you don't want to get all that in your mouth.
Right, but
Eat it.
it's just pouring
Right.
and sifting it.
Yes.
But sludge isn't something that you would go, oh, there's sludge, I'm going to throw it away.
No.
No.
Well, grappa came from that. I met one of the Italian guys that came up with it. He said, trust the Italians to come up with the dregs of the barrel. That's what it is. And they refine it 3 times and they get $50 a shot for it from all the crap. He said, it's a great... I am personally, grappa is not my... Have you tasted grappa?
It's very, very sweet, isn't it?
No, it's dry and
Real
bitter.
bitter.
Oh, is
It's
it?
almost like
It's
licking...
horrible.
Licking
Well, you can finish that
underarms.
sentence. Okay.
Wow.
Oh,
I've
have you ever done that?
I've never done that.
I must say I've missed that one.
So getting back. So, okay, pouring in a
In
proper glass.
a proper
And
glass.
stuff. But the bottom line, when all is
Smell.
said and done, I tell this to people every night, is the only thing that really matters with wine is, do you like it or don't you?
Right.
The rest is irrelevant. If you don't like it, it doesn't matter. And there's no right and wrong. It's so subjective. If you want to start reading bottles in France, I mean, estate bottle is what you're looking for. Estate bottle in California means it's grown, everything's done on estate in the winery. They grow their own grapes. They make their own grapes. They're not outsourced. So in France, it's mise en bouteille, which is the same thing. In Italy, it's different. But people aren't going to remember that. The wonderful thing about the phone is you can go to any wine store if I don't know what to buy. And you can punch up the wine and find out all about it right there. The thing I recommend highly, though, and a lot of wine stores do it, and it pisses me off, is they have got the score, 95 points Wine Spectator, 2012. And then you go and look at them, people don't notice this, and then you look in the bin, it's a 13 or a 14, which could be an 85 point. And they never change it. When the vintage changes, they've got this high score that people are like, oh, we're buying this highly rated wine, top 10 wines of the year.
We
And
just
it's not.
saw that.
Yep.
We just...
Yeah.
Friggin', we just saw that.
So I tell people, pay attention. Make sure that what they're advertising is what you're actually getting, because they don't update it. Total Wine doesn't, or
Nope,
the local.
they don't.
And I pointed out all the time, I said, this, for 6 months, you've had a 2012 cab that I bought the last 2 of. It was fantastic. Now you've got a 16 in there, which is a totally different animal.
Right.
It's more money and it's a lower score, but yet you've still got that score. Most unsuspecting folk will not notice that. So.
Is the nose based off your own personal memory?
Yeah, yes,
Rather than
for
making
me.
something up, it's like
Yes.
whatever.
This reminds me
if
of
I
that.
smell an old boxing glove, a leather boxing glove, I mean, shit, that's me.
Yeah.
I smell my
Boxing
grandpa's.
Yeah, I had
box.
a customer the other night, a woman who said, she ordered a Bordeaux, and she goes, it smells like a pig's butt. I said, I don't even want to know how you know that. She goes, I grew up on a farm, but I understand what she's meaning, that whole barnyardy thing.
Right, kind of a hay,
yeah.
kind of a straw, maybe she's kind of going at, but maybe not the butthole, but yeah.
Yeah. By the way, when Malia, my better half, she goes, what's the podcast called? I said, she goes, Inside the Bunghole. She goes, what? Because that...
Obviously, it
If you-
has a little...
Well, if you're not in the wine business, you know what a bunghole is. To every other people, you know what it is. Like, that's a very weird name for a wine podcast.
We figured it might get us some extra listeners that don't quite...
Have you already explained it?
We did in the
Oh, the
first
first one,
podcast.
okay.
Yeah.
But...
And a thief in your bunghole.
Yeah, the way the
thief in
the
the
thief.
bunghole
Yeah,
is always
a
fun.
thief could come in your bunghole.
get out of my house.
Yeah. So smell is basically like you would smell. I smell pineapple. I smell pepper.
Right.
I smell.
But you give 10 people like that. You pour that and give it to 10. There were 10 people in the room.
Right.
Ask them what they smell, what they taste. You'll get 10 totally different descriptions. Because there might be 1 or 2 that are similar, but most people, their sense is completely different.
Right.
And I found the bad thing about, since COVID, a lot of people's smell and taste has been heavily affected.
Absolutely.
They're not, either they've lost it. I had a lady in the other night I've known for years. She goes, it's 18 months and I cannot smell, and cooking and wine is my life.
Oh.
And so I said, well, why are you coming here? You should go to McDonald's. I mean, you can't taste anything.
Right.
And she ordered a $50. She goes, I got to drink some wine. It's the whole thing of drinking wine. She says, but I can't taste anymore. But a lot of people's senses have been dulled a lot because of, if you had COVID, the lingering effects. So, but everyone has a different outlook on it, a different way of tasting, or a different tasting
Well, and
receptacle.
smell and memory are so closely connected that even though it might be, the same sensation, I associate it with something different than you're going to associate it with.
So now taste. How would you go into that?
Would you be swirling
Are you
it,
a swirling?
sucker?
I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I've been going to wine tastings for years. They all spit wine out. I cannot taste a wine unless I swallow it. It's the finish on the back, because some wines are wonderful on the front because the front of your tongue is the sweetness.
Yeah.
And then they spit it out.
I think that's just a damn waste. I don't
well, yeah,
understand.
that
I
too,
don't
I never
understand
thought-
anybody who spits out wine.
But yeah, well, they have to if you're tasting 20 or 30 wines. But
That's
I've been
not-
there.
I
I
can
can't
do
catch
it.
a buzz anymore in the restaurant. I used to
Right.
stagger out of there. But
Right.
I taste 40, 50, 60 wines a night. But I cannot judge a wine unless I swallow it.
I see.
Because the aftertaste and the finish is so much different. It can be wonderful on the front, and you spit it out. It's great. If you swallow wine and a couple of seconds later, it starts turning a bit. It's like tart. It's bitter. It's totally different. So I need to know the whole experience of a wine. And most wines, if you can open up a really nice wine at home, half an hour before you're actually going to drink it. I don't like to decant it unless I have to. I'd like to drink it like the winemaker wanted you to drink it. It's the same thing as the aerators.
Right.
People like 2 minutes in the microwave, too long. I want it now, so pour it through an aerator. But that's not how it was supposed to be. It
Processed.
mellows it out too quickly. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
So 2 minutes in a microwave, is that a thing?
no, and I'm just saying, people are like, I want dinner now, but how long? Oh, look, it's 2 minutes to cook this dinner. No, I want it now. People are so impatient. I want it
Yes, yes.
now. No.
So the tasting portion is interesting because it's almost the feel. I
It is.
find when it's on the tongue, it's like it's coating the whole tongue, or it's just right up front,
Or the
it's
roof of your
way-
mouth.
Roof of your
Yes.
mouth.
And the roof of your mouth gets the tannins to me. So European wines, you get a lot more kind of that prickly sensation from.
Yeah.
Now, California Zin's the other end of the spectrum, the highest alcohol, biggest, the most potent of most wines in the world. It's strictly an American grape, really. And they are 16, sometimes pushing 17% alcohol. They're just
That's
too
where it
big.
gets me right here.
Yeah, it's almost too much.
Right in the jowls.
Yeah. Do you like that or not?
Not really.
No.
And now it'll. You know what?
A little
though?
more
I
subtle.
always find that. Not always, but most of the time I find that after a bottle or two, a couple sips, that
It mellows out?
It mellows out.
Well, give me a baguette and some cheese and a nice, a nice
Let's
red
just
wine.
go to
I'm just
France.
happy because
That's
cheese,
simple. Simple.
cheese and wine, because it's a naturally empty astringent cheese. It's just
Yeah.
a perfect match
Yeah.
for wine.
I
And if
love
you
like
have
a little fatty salami. I love.
or something like charcuterie is wonderful.
Yeah.
And if you're on an empty stomach and you want to taste the wine, if you've got a piece of cheese at home, just have one, nothing else, just put a piece of cheese in your mouth. It just coats your mouth and your throat enough.
Really?
Because if you're on a very empty stomach, like people are when they come to Hugo's, and they always taste the wine before, this doesn't taste good. I'm like, okay. Give it about 30 seconds and have another sip, because the second sip's always better. But as soon as oh no, I still don't like it. Okay, wait till you have an appetizer or a salad. If you still don't like it, I'll be happy to change it. Because as soon as they have a couple of bites of food, it changes the whole thing.
That is the beauty of wine, is truly, and I mean, bullshit or not as far as pairings, because I'm not that great
No.
with all that.
Well, as I said,
But there are certainly wines that are not shit, but they're nothing like they are with food.
Oh right, I agree.
And
I never
vice
found
versa.
my chocolate magic to this day. I
What's
never
chocolate
had
magic?
chocolate and the red one. Never found it.
How about
It's-
port? Have you tried port with chocolate? Do you drink
No.
port? Have you ever tried?
I love
He
port.
loves.
Oh yeah.
But I've only gone the Graham six
Six
grape.
grape.
route.
Oh,
His
like,
kids' names
get a
are-
20-year-old tawny.
see, that would be it. Yeah.
Sandeman, it's $50-$60 at Total Wine for a bottle of
Chocolate with
20-year-old
X.
tawny.
Now I got to do it.
And
Yeah,
it's
I'll
a
get
very
mine.
good value, 20-year tawny. They
And
go
do
down
you
south.
say dark chocolate, milk,
Whatever you like.
whatever?
Whatever you like.
If you like dark chocolate, which a lot of people don't, I like them both. Dark chocolate is even better. And fruit, fruit and wine is not a good match, because we serve a sorbet, as you remember, in between the courses.
Yes.
Well, one week it's raspberry, which is not great, but the other week is lemon. Lemon and wine is I always say, just don't have some order, or just leave the wine for a second, because
Right.
it just does nothing for it. I always say it's the second worst thing you could have with wine is lemon. Number one is toothpaste. Toothpaste good for nothing except kissing for about 30 seconds, and that's
Right.
gone as well.
And a
So-
glass of orange juice.
yeah, OJ. Well, any of the citrus fruits and wine,
Yeah.
they clash with wine. They're just not good for you.
So you said cheese. Now, do you suggest you eat the cheese first and then?
If you're
Just
on an
a
empty
bite.
stomach, because otherwise the wine will taste a lot more astringent to you
Yeah.
when you taste it. Just one little chunk of whatever your cheese is. I think, just for a neutral cheese, Gouda and Edam from Holland, always good because they're not overpowering. I love Bries and Camemberts and Gorgonzolas, but you get something too strong, it's going to overpower the wine.
Yeah.
So those neutral wines, like the Dutch cheeses, are so easy to have, and it just one bite, and you can feel it just coat right here. Because sometimes, if you're on an empty stomach, do you ever get that little burn right here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right in your solar plexus. Yeah. That'll take it away, and so it makes you can tell right away how the wine tastes. So.
Have you ever been asked, or people ask you should write a book, or?
Yeah. Oh, for years.
Just
Write a
a
book. They want to write a book
Vegas
about the stories. I said I'll never say a word about Frank because he'll come back and get me.
Right.
Because
but you actually caught the end tale of
the
Vegas.
Of the mob era,
Yeah,
and how elegant and glamorous it was.
Yeah.
I don't mind it now because the business is so much better. But they started conventions with the next thing, the business.
Yes.
And then it opened up to family. Then they went to families, and so kids everywhere. When
did it turn to douchebaggery?
Yeah, I would say the later mid 90s, late 90s. That's when the strip started exploding, when Steve Wynn started building all the big, one after another, the center strip. Because when I came here, the Dunes and the Sands, the Dunes is now Bellagio, the Sands is now Venetian, and my favorite hotel was the Desert Inn, which...
That was my dad's...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was the most expensive room in town, but they catered to more like wealthy Texans, but they had some great rooms in there, classic places, and that's now the Wynn. It was just different. It was small. When I moved here in '83, there were 200,000 people. Now there's 2.2 million.
Crazy. And you can tell the minute you get on the freeway.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Is England today, percentage-wise, beer or wine?
Beer is very big. Gin is the national, of course, gin is the national drink. If you go to an English bar with the drinks list, I would say 75% of the drinks are gin-based. Gin. My mother's drink, gin and tonic is the national drink. But I'm the only British guy you'll ever meet in your life that does not like booze, period. I don't drink booze. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
Gin is like nail polish remover to me.
Yeah, I can't do gin.
Beer is popular, but wine, yes, very big. The number one consumer in the world of champagne per capita and port is the UK.
Okay.
But wine, is huge because they call it plonk, inexpensive wine. It's the same in this country. I believe, it used to be 90% of the fine wine in the US is consumed by 10% of the population.
I imagine that.
Yeah.
Is true.
And the rest is, it's got a lot better than our college days. Remember, what was the Mad Dog 2020?
Yes.
I lost my thrill on Strawberry Hill or whatever the hell it was. Boone's Farm, all that
Annie
crap.
Springsteen or whatever it was.
Annie Green Springs, yeah.
Yeah,
Yesterday was a wonderful year, thank you. But it was $2 a gallon. You were a student, What did you get?
What year is it?
Have you got
Yesterday.
any, as Steve Martin said in The Jerk, have you got anything fresher? Remember when they bring the 1961? Have you got anything fresher?
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I would love to leave the door open for future
Ditto.
visits.
Great to meet you two. You've been a
called
lot of fun.
That's called a revisit.
That's called a revisit.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the technical term in your biz?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you don't write a book, consider a podcast or, just be a regular guest on
Yeah,
it.
you could dynamite on a podcast.
Yeah.
That'd be great. You have too many good stories.
Well, you will find John over at Hugo Cellar. I don't think he's planning on leaving anytime soon.
3 years, and I'll be retiring in about 3 years.
3 years, so
Yes, come and see me. I'm off on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so any other day, just look for the skinny English guy with the bling around his...
And
my Tastavin, which people say, Flavor Flav? I get that all day.
Yeah,
he's the one who's making people laugh.
Yeah.
I coin you as the Johnny Rotten of wine.
No, I'll take that.
Johnny,
As long as it's not Sid Vicious, I'll take it.
Yeah, this guy's rough.
Thanks, Nancy.
He's rough.
so
He's rough. He's really rough, son.
Pay him a visit.
Yeah.
And you won't be disappointed, and he'll steer you in the right direction no matter what the price.
No,
Yes.
he's
just
not
be real.
snobby. Yeah.
All he wants is for you to enjoy your wine.
Yes, and you'll have a great time.
Period.
Old school.
Okay, thanks for joining us, and join us inside the bunghole next time. Thank you.
If you want to know more about Inside the Bunghole, join us on all our social media platforms. You can get a revisit and view all the latest posts, giveaways, and information on this podcast. Simply search Inside the Bunghole on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. Or you can email us at insidethebunghole@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and visit our website at insidethebunghole.buzzsprout.com, where you can always find our latest podcast and past episodes. Cheers!